What is up, Copy Squad? It's your boy, Kyle Milligan, coming to you live from Baltimore, Maryland. And today we're going to talk about the analysis paralysis cure for new marketers and copywriters. Now, let's say you've just started copywriting and you are suffering from information overload, and it's creating what's known as decision paralysis, where you've got all this excess information flying in and it's like oversaturation. Basically, you've been completely overwhelmed by all the stuff out there. Before I forget, I'll go ahead and just pitch my book. How about that? You can find out how to basically streamline and structure doing your marketing and copywriting through my book called Take Their Money at kylethewriter.com/book. I had it happen to me today. Today I was in a meeting where we were kind of going over modes of improvement for a promo. Everyone wrapped up, and I didn't say a word the whole entire meeting, and then it was done. And they said, "Any questions?" And I was like, "I got one question." And I was like, "Okay, we talked about all this stuff. We talked about sending text messages. We talked about self-liquidating offers. We talked about streamlining our email sequences and segmenting our audiences." I was like, "But what's one thing that if I wanted to just put out a promo tomorrow and it's just a basic page, like a sales page, like text, what's one thing that I can do that we talked about today?" And not even think in the context of the system that we were just talking about. What's one thing that I can just do? And that was the same thing. It was this idea of information overload. It wasn't necessarily analysis paralysis, but that was me getting ahead of it, because it is that information saturation that causes all this excess information to pile up and make you start spinning your wheels and get stuck, right? So I think I've got the analysis paralysis cure, and I'm going to kind of break it down into steps, I think I would call it. So I've talked to you guys about my research process before, when I'm writing a promo, and also I also offer a research video service. I've got 5 modules. I got 6 videos and 5 modules on the same page as my book sales page. It's at kylethewriter.com/book. But the research process is really heavy and important. And one of the things that I do is this is how it also goes into analysis paralysis. To start my research process, I funnel by one major thing. The first thing I funnel by is okay, what am I trying to write? And generally it's I'm writing either a front end or a back end. Let's say it's a back end. It's a back end system promo. It's the easiest go-to right now. So I'm gonna write a system promo for a back end. So immediately what I would do for my research, and this would help you narrow and focus it so that you don't get this information overload, is I would immediately start looking for other back ends that are selling systems, right? And it seems so obvious, Obvious Adams. Obvious Adams is a book they gave us in Copy Camp about a fictional businessman who just did the obvious things and he became very successful. But it's super obvious Adams, okay, I want to write a financial back end, so what should I do? I should go find financial back end newsletters and read those. And that's kind of what the whole book Take Their Money is about finding the thing that you want to do and how to reverse engineer it so that you can do it just as good or better. Take the best parts for several promos. So what I do, I try to read 5. Okay, I try to find 5 promos that are already selling something similar to what I'm selling. They're writing in a similar manner because they're kind of going with, they all have their own unique approach, but they're all selling a back end system. I'll read all 5. Okay, I'll absorb all that information. It'll go here. I'll take notes, whatever. And then this is how you overcome analysis paralysis. And this is, I think, where most people get hung up too. I want to write a sales letter. Okay, I go buy Dan Kennedy's book. I go buy Joe Sugarman's book. I go buy Gary Halbert's book. Now I want to write a letter. All those dudes write different stuff, right? They write their own way. They have their own system. And then you go buy my book, and it's totally different too. Oh crap, who do I follow? Who do I listen to? Well, listen, read all of them. I do not think it is a bad thing to constantly be reading. I promote reading a lot of books. I think that's a very important thing to do. However, you read them all. Okay, so I read 5 system backends, and some are better than others. As a matter of fact, I usually take, if I can find 3 really high performers, I'll take 3, and I will go back and I'll dissect 3. Okay, and the way I do that is usually with this legal pad here, and I'll make little stars and notes, and then I'll draw up what I saw happening. Well, I'll go back and I'll dissect my favorite 3 super hardcore, and I'll try to tease out where they're using new, easy, safe, and big, and how they start, what's the big promise that they're coming at? How do they tease the hook into the big promise? And what is the big promise? And I try to break apart all this stuff, which is how I teach you how to read copy and Take Their Money, my book. So I'll do that for 3. Okay, Now, this is the next step. This is how you eliminate analysis paralysis. I've got 3. Okay, I started with 5. I read 5 promos. I broke down my favorite 3 and tried to understand my favorite parts. Sometimes I only get 2. You know, if it's really niche and I can't find like a bunch of prime examples, I'll break it down to like 2. Then I really, really strongly read those 2, and then I pick 1. I pick 1, and this one is going to be my like model. Like, this is who I'm going to focus on. I do that to everything I do, every approach I make. That eliminates analysis paralysis. Like what I'm doing right here, going live every day and making offers. I have read so much stuff about marketing. I've read so much stuff about sales and copywriting. But at the end of the day, when I knew I wanted to build an audience and I wanted to create a following, at the time I didn't know why or what I would do with it. I just started making YouTube videos. And then eventually I wanted to write a book and I wanted to sell it. And I looked around, and who was doing it the way I thought was best was Frank Kern. Frank Kern goes live every day, and he either pitches his class or he pitches his book. He does it several times a call. And I simply I've absorbed tons and tons of books of marketing. You know, I've watched tons of courses or online stuff, and I watched YouTube videos. And then at the end of the day, I said, that's it. I'm going to emulate Frank Kern. The knowledge is there. I know it. It's in the back of my head. But I'm not trying to be those guys. I've made the decision that I'm going to emulate one person. That's Frank Kern. That eliminates analysis paralysis. Like one of the emails I got today that made me decide to do this video. I was sitting in that meeting and someone said, dude, I don't know which guru to follow. I'm reading all these books. And I was like, yeah, I'm getting all this information in this meeting. I don't know what thing to do next. Like what's the one thing I can actually do to improve my game with these 50 different things flying at me? And I even asked them at the end of the meeting, well, what's the one thing I can do? That's the thing. Like, I am really good at picking like one thing, saying I'm going to do that, and then I go do it. For better or for worse, whether I'm good at it or not, I just go do it. So I think if you want to get over like the analysis paralysis of being a copywriter, like I want to write a promo, I want to write an email, I want to write a sales letter, I want to do this, I want to do that. No, dude, you aren't committing. So what you got to do is, I do invite you to kind of like go ahead and read everything. Get all the information you can. Pile that knowledge into your brain, right? That's totally cool. Now, whenever you start out reading everything. Then you kind of narrow it down to like, I kind of like these 3 ideas. Let me see those really close. Let me take a closer look at those. And then finally pick one and say, actually, this guru is the guru whose system I like the best. This is the person I want to follow and emulate, and that's who I'm going to stick to. And at that point, all the other stuff you learned is still salient, it's still relevant, it's still in your brain, and you can call it up, right? It's still in there. But you don't use it, you don't follow it like a recipe, like you follow the one. You find the one, and that becomes your recipe. And you don't copy, but you mimic, you imitate, all right? And then after a year or so of doing this every day, then you can begin to innovate. Maybe someday I'll do something unique and special in my own Kyle way, but for now, I'm just going to imitate Frank Kern until I figure out how this works for me. And that is by going live every day, giving you some free value, and then saying, hey, if you want to learn how to write words that really sell, go to kylethewriter.com/book. Check out my book, take their money. So yeah, basically, if you're feeling paralyzed by how many options you have, the easiest way to combat that is to simply start big. Start big. Definitely start big. Start reading everything. That's totally fine. The thing is, whenever you decide it's time to take action, you need to immediately begin to narrow it down. Very focused and decisively cut things out. Okay? So I start with reading 5 promos, and then I cut it down to like my favorite 2 or 3. Sometimes 2, sometimes 3. But then I pick like one, and I emulate it. Like my promo is going to model this one, and it'll probably draw some elements from number 2. If I broke down 3, I'll probably discard 1 entirely, and then use this one as my model, and then like emulate pieces of this too. That way, it doesn't look like a carbon copy of this. But I think that's where analysis paralysis stems from, is people aren't willing to do that. Just once you kind of go ahead, read every guru's thing, watch every video, go to every seminar or course or whatever it is that you do, and then when it's time to sit down, pick one. That's your thing, and then do that. That's all I do. That's all I do for anything I do. That's it for today, Copy Squad. Thanks so much for tuning in, Copy Squad. Peace out.